Hello, I'm Richard Sani and this is another Yin Yoga pose video. So in this video we'll be working on wide-legged child's pose, or as a more deeper variation, frog pose. Great postures to open up the hips, open up the inner part of the thighs. Typically you'll want one or two blankets handy, as well as a pair of blocks if you got them by, or something that you can use for padding or support. I find to be very helpful. So first we want to set up our mat appropriately. So I'll take a Mexican blanket, which is a really helpful moldable type of blanket. Starting in the standard position, I will unfold it so it's a little bit wider, and I'll run it perpendicular about halfway down the middle of my mat. And this will be good support for the knees. Once I've done that, I'll bring my knees right onto the blanket. And I'll start setting up for a really wide child's pose. So bring my knees as wide as I comfortably can, big toes together. Hands can be in a little bit here until I start to find a place that starts to note a little bit of good work sensation in the inner part of our thighs or groin area. And from here, you might start to work into a posture where you can allow the upper body to be a little more restful. So that's where the blocks come in handy. I like to take the blocks to rest my forearms on, and I'm just starting to find a little movement in the hips, just to find that sweet spot where I maximize some good feeling of opening or a pulling sensation in the inner thighs and groin. Some folks will find it when they bring the hips back towards the heels a little bit more. Some will find it most potent when the hips are in line with the knees, or you might even decide to bring the hips a little bit forward. Just looking for that sweet spot for you. If you're flexible enough, you might bring your forearms down to the mat. You might even stack the palms, rest the side of the face on the stacked palms, one palm on the other. And you'll take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes in this posture is a good starting point. Remembering that on a scale of 1 to 10, we might want to try to keep the sensation intensity anywhere between a 5 and 7, especially if you've never done this type of posture before. Yin Yoga is about long, deep holds with sensation present, but always err on the side of caution until you know how your bodies will respond to a pose. So if we want to kick it up a notch and go into the frog posture, we might take our feet, turning our ankles outwards, and then kicking our feet apart so that our ankle is roughly in line with the knee. The knee and the ankle I have about a 90-degree bend in my knee here. And so you got to make sure your ankles feel okay. You got to make sure your knees feel okay on this one. This is where extra padding potentially underneath the knee might be helpful here. Same as in our wide-legged child's pose, you'll want to play with how far back the hips are, how far forward the hips are. Are you using your blocks for some support? Using them on the different settings can potentially be helpful. And just letting the chest, letting the shoulders, letting the upper body relax here as you soak in some good opening pull or stretch into those groins and hips. Focusing on a slow, steady, deep conscious breath, and really working to make sure that you're not pushing yourself here. Just if you're feeling it, you're doing it is a popular phrase in Yin Yoga. When you're ready to come out of the posture, you're going to bring your feet together, slowly working back towards that wide-legged child's pose shape. You'll start to press onto your hands to lift your chest up a little bit, walking the hands in toward the hips. And when you're ready, slowly inch the knees in a little bit more closely one another. Just incrementally give yourself the opportunity to just gently come out of the posture. Eventually bringing the thighs close to one another, allowing yourself the opportunity to close the thighs so they get a little rest from that pulling apart motion. And you might take a few moments in a standard child's pose, just allowing the back to round, resting the neck and the shoulders, just letting everything, the hips closed for a few moments so it just reestablishes after that opening that we rested. After a few nice breaths in child's pose, you can push your way back up to tabletop, and you might lift a knee and roll out the hip a little bit. Just welcome a little fluidity. Do the other side. And sometimes you can tuck the toes, move back into a down dog, and just kind of pedal it out. That can feel really nice. So this has been the wide-legged child's pose and the frog pose. I've got some more notes about the posture in the description down below. Check that out. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next pose.